Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Maimuna Akhtar from School of Pharmaceutical Education and Research, Jamia Hamdard. Here we are to discuss about the module Flame Emission Spectroscopy, its application from paper Atomic Spectroscopy. In this module, we'll brush up the basic concept and then touch the applications of the flame emission spectroscopy in different areas of science. We'll discuss the determination of sodium in general and in different samples like clinical samples, the specific application of flame emission spectroscopy in water, glass, biological fluids and tissues, the treatment of various samples depending upon the source of the sample, in petroleum products, the use of FES in metallurgic products and in agronomical materials. So talking about flame photometry, or what is commonly known as flame emission spectroscopy, uses flame as a source of excitation. The emission produces is very characteristic to the substance under test. So it is used for determination of metal ions in different type of samples that can be organic or non-organic in nature. FES has majorly applied for analysis of inorganic chemicals and is used in measuring the concentration of up to 10 different elements. Usually alkali metals like that is group 1 elements and alkaline earth metals group 2 elements are detected by this technique very easily, and by using interchangeable filters or diffraction gratings you can improve upon the sensitivity of the system. The flame photometry, which is also known as flame emission spectrometry, has basis on that the thermal energy that's provided by the flame dissociates the molecules into atoms. These atoms are excited by the absorbance of the energy that's provided by flame to higher energy level where they are unstable. So that means this excess energy needs to be released in some form. So these atoms, while moving from excited state to the low energy ground state, emit some radiations which can be visualized in the visible region of the spectrum. That means this excess energy and those molecules on those atoms associated is released, or they relax by releasing the energy in the form of light or radiations. The wavelengths of these radiations is very specific and are specific for each element. So you can on the right hand side see when a molecule in excited state, it has atoms in excited state, comes to ground state, it releases the excess energy in the form of photon with a specific wavelength and Planck's constant. In flame emission spectrometry, the sample solution is nebulized, that means it is converted into fine aerosol and introduced into the flame, which is where it is dissolvated, vaporized and atomized, all in a rapid suction. Subsequently, atoms and molecules are raised to excited state via thermal collision with the constituents of the particularly burned flame gas. Upon their return to the lower or ground electronic state, the excited atoms emit radiations which is characteristic to each of the atom. The emitted radiations pass through a monochromator, or you can say a selector, that isolates specific wavelength for the desired analysis. A photodetector is then used to measure the radiant power of the selected radiation, which is amplified and sent to a readout device, or a meter, you can say, or recorder or microcomputer system. This slide shows you the various flames that are obtained from different atoms. For example, sodium produces persistent golden yellow flame, potassium and cesium produces violet flame, lithium, carmine red flame, calcium produces brick red flame, strontium produces crimson flame, barium molybdenum provides yellowish green flame, borate, copper, thallium produce green flame, lead, arsenic, antimony, bismuth and copper, they all produce blue flame. And from this you can actually make sense by looking into the flame that which element is present. and the intensity of flame can tell you, intensity, the color of the flame can tell you the amount of the element present in it. Coming to the main topic of today's module, which is application of flame emission spectroscopy. This flame emission spectroscopy has been applied to the analysis of wide variety of materials. That includes biological fluids, soil, plant materials, cement, glass, agronomical samples, agricultural samples, or water, natural water, or any kind of sample. Majorly, this is used to identify, or you can say determine, concentration of group 1 and group 2 elements majorly, but it can be the use can be extended to other elements also. The determination of sodium, potassium, and calcium in such diverse samples as blood, serum, urine, soil extractor, and industrial and natural water is a standard procedure in many laboratories. That means many laboratories have a standard protocol. They developed a standard protocol for determination of these elements. The determination of lithium, sodium, potassium, cesium, or other elements like strontium, barium, lead, magnesium, thallium, boron, they have already been carried out by using flame photometry. The flame emission spectroscopy has been used for study of different metal ions in different substances. The application can vary, technique can vary depending upon the source, depending upon the sample available and the source of the sample. The elements are grouped according to the different categories, like the elements which are commonly determined in most of the samples: aluminum, copper, iron, lead, lithium, magnesium, manganese, potassium, rubidium, sodium, and strontium. Elements that are determined easily but are more or less neglected. For example, silver, bismuth, cadmium, tin, cobalt, gallium, lanthanum, nickel, palladium, rhodium, ruthenium, etc. Elements which distinctive but are less sensitive to flame spectra. They are also, can say, identified by using flame emission spectroscopy. For example, beryllium, gallium, gold, molybdenum, mercury, rubidium. Also, flame emission can also be used indirectly for the estimation of non-metals like bromine, chlorine, fluorine, phosphorus, selenium. So we'll discuss some examples of determination of elements in general samples and some specific samples. Determination of sodium in general different samples. So determination of sodium, potassium, and other alkali metals was very difficult in earlier times, and it was very time consuming. The flame photometry has provided rapid, accurate, and less time consuming method, and this can be applied to even trace levels as well as to semi-micro levels. Flame photometry has been widely used in laboratories and industries for the analysis of sodium, potassium, and many other metals. The method of determination uses a calibration curve of flame emission versus sodium concentration in prepared and sodium content of several unknowns are determined. That means you need to prepare a calibration curve for sodium. That means different concentration of sodium in different solutions is prepared first. A recording for each concentration is done, and a standard plot is plotted against the concentration of sodium versus the area under curve. And from that area under curve, you can determine the concentration in unknown samples. So after discussing briefly the determination of sodium in general samples, we'll come to the determination of sodium in clinical samples, because this is comparatively a bit different. So in this case, an internal standard method is generally used. And in internal standard method, lithium is employed for sodium as an internal standard, and for potassium in blood, urine, and other biological fluids. A standard stock solution of sodium ion is prepared by dissolving about 0.23 grams of sodium carbonate in a small amount of dilute HCl, and without any loss, because when you mix HCl and sodium bicarbonate, you will see effervescence, which may result in loss of the sample. The solution is then diluted to 1 liter in a volumetric flask to obtain a concentration of 0.1 gram of sodium per liter, or you can say 100 parts per million of sodium. This standard solution is then used to prepare different series of solutions containing 4, 7, 10, 15, 25, 40 parts per million by dilution, or you can make a range of your interest, or you are working in, what you expect. Then these samples are you can say fed into the flame and nebulized, then atomized and fed into flame by feeding into flame. And flame emission at 589 nanometers is measured for each standard solution for at least 6 times, and a calibration curve is prepared. The unknown solution is diluted until its emission falls in the range of the calibration curve. The sodium content of tap water should also be determined by this method. You can determine that sodium content in tap water by this method also. Normal serum normally contains 138 to 146 millimoles of sodium per liter, while the sodium content in urine is between 75 to 200 millimoles of sodium, and which is normally a normal adult excretes in a 24-hour time. A flame emission spectroscopy has also been applied in determination of various metal ions in different samples, like water. You can use them in determination of metal ions in glass, micelles. So let's consider water, because everybody uses water, and it's very important to have a good quality water. And even in experimental procedures, if water is required, you need to have certain criteria or certain standard for use of water. Water usually contains calcium, iron, magnesium, silicon, sodium, and sometimes aluminum and potassium in the form of bicarbonates, chlorides, hydroxides, nitrates, and sulfates. This depends upon the source of the water. What is the source? It can be seawater, it can be a groundwater. The type of element or metal that may be present in water differs according to the source. Small amounts of nickel and strontium have also been found in seawater. Industrial wastes have been found to contain elements peculiar to the plant operation. That depends upon what work the industry is working with or the kind of work it does. So we'll see different kind of elements there. So because of very low concentration of most of the component, the analysis of fresh water by flame spectrometry is very difficult, and that's why a prior concentration step is needed. That means we have a sensitivity issue in the terms of concentration. If there is very less concentration of a metal, we need to first concentrate the sample. That means you heat it up, reduce the volume of the sample so that the amount of the metal to be determined increases per unit volume. And then you can actually use flame emission spectroscopy to determine the concentration. Cations are usually isolated by making use of cation exchange resins and then eluted with 0.2 normal hydrochloric acid. Cesium has been absorbed on ammonium 12 molybdophosphate with aluminum as flocculant, after which solids are dissolved in sodium hydroxide. The cesium is extracted with hexanocyclohexane solution of sodium tetraphenyl boron, and the extract is burned. For determination of strontium and calcium, and for avoiding mutual interference among the constituents, particularly in case of seawater, standard addition method is most suitable method. Standard addition method means we have also discussed in other modules. It's just like adding a reference standard in the sample. If you are preparing different dilutions of standard, you add a reference substance of which you know the emission, and you can actually read directly. So that gives you an indication at all times that yes, you are going in right direction. The analysis of water is also affected by the source, as I mentioned earlier, that if it is from a source where you can find organic matter in high concentrations, the procedure for determination of elements does not remain simple. The sample needs to be first ignited at a very high degree centigrade to remove this organic matter, and then digested with HCl, and the silica is then removed. The filtrate is diluted to volume, and aliquots are used for individual measurement. The application of flame photometry can be extended to any system, and glasses is one of the examples, because we know glasses are made of borosilicate. That means it's a sand, borosilicate. And there is a percentage of sodium and potassium in borosilicate glasses, and depending upon the content of sodium and potassium, glasses have been graded according to grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. And this because when you have a pharmaceutical preparation to be filled in a glass, you need to be very careful about the grading of the glass, especially when parental drugs are can say stored in them, because sodium has a tendency to leach out into the liquid or into the content that it has packed, so it may alkaline the system and again help in degradation of the product. So the quality of glass is very important when you talk of the pharmaceutical product packaging, and it is also otherwise important as per the quality of the glass is required. So you can actually determine the sodium and potassium content in glass by using flame photometry technique. So this glass wherein you want to actually check sodium and potassium is broken down, and or you can say melt, and then you can determine sodium potassium by flame photometry. The glass powder is ground with an energy disk and passed through 100 mesh screen, and then dissolved in perchloric acid or sulfuric acid, or you can also use hydrofluoric acid. The fumes of perchloric acid are evaporated, and residue is diluted with water to volume. The mutual interference of sodium and potassium have been buffered by using barium chloride. The determination of these elements in cements have also been done by using flame photometry. In a way, the presence or absence of certain elements determine the quality of the cement as it does in case of glasses. So hence rapid method for analysis are required to control the purpose during production and for screening of the raw material. For determination of sodium and potassium as sodium oxide and potassium oxide in cement, the cement samples are compared against a series of standards which contain 6301 grams per ml of calcium oxide in 5:95 HCl. This method can also be used for manganese and lithium identification or determination. A mixed series of standard containing the same quantities of calcium oxide and HCl is used to prepare the working curve. The lithium cannot be determined by internal standard method because it is a constituent of the cement. However, flame photometry may also be used for separate determination of lithium along with other alkali metals. So in order to eliminate the effect of sulfate, silica, aluminum and calcium, compensatory standards are necessary for the determination of magnesium and strontium. The flame emission spectroscopy can also be applied for determination of elements in various biological fluids and tissues. As we all know that it's very sensitive technique. So biological fluids contain very less amount of metals, so it can be used effectively and efficiently. The speed and sensitivity of the flame photometry is ideally suitable for problem in biology and medicine. For example, data on concentration of sodium and potassium in biological fluids and tissues can be obtained and determined in minutes and with very small quantities of the material. Because one of the issue with the biological fluids and tissue is the sample quantity. The sample quantity available is very less in case of biological fluids and tissues. So this is an important advantage of flame photometry, that we can use small quantities of the material. The analysis of sodium in biological fluids can be carried out by directly atomizing the fluid on cool air gas flame after appropriate dilution. Because of dominance of sodium in most body fluids, interference of proteins, sugar, etc. are minimum. But these interference must be avoided by additional treatment in order to get good results. Dilution should easily be from 0.1 to 10 microgram per ml of final sodium concentration, so that it lies on the linear part of the working curve. In the determination of potassium, cool air gas flame are preferred because of minimum ionization. The amount of potassium present in body fluid is less than that of sodium, and hence a series of standard of potassium are prepared with a fixed of sodium in each series. So that means we are using sodium as an internal standard so as to avoid any interference due to the presence of sodium in the biological fluids. So reading on both elements are then taken and estimation of potassium is then carried out by working curve for potassium corresponding to the content of the sodium found. Preliminary ashing is necessary in case of tissue phases. Like if you have a tissue material, then it is burned first to remove the organic material. So preliminary ashing is necessary in case of tissue phases. Dry ashing may be done in an electric muffle furnace at 550 degrees centigrade until a grey ash is obtained. The ash is cooled and then treated with excess of 12 molar HCl, and excess is removed by careful heating. The residue is again heated to 550 degrees centigrade until it is white. It may also be treated with 5 molar nitric acid as oxidizing agent, followed by drying and heating again. Due to this treatment, you are all removing all extra materials, organic materials that may interfere with the estimation of the sodium in tissue samples. Ash obtained, this white colored ash obtained is cooled and again dissolved in minimum amount of 12 molar HCl. The solution is diluted with suitable solvent and suspended particles are removed by centrifugation, and platinum or quartz dish and stirring rods may be used. In case of wet ashing, that was dry ashing that you heat in a muffle furnace. You can do also perform wet ashing. In case of wet ashing, the sample is treated with 15 molar nitric acid, equal volumes of liquid and 5 units parts of solid, and then digested on a hot plate. You mix it with 15 molar nitric acid and heat it on a hot plate until it dissolves and evolution of brown fumes has ceased. The digestion is repeated 2 or 3 times and the light colored residue then obtained is then dissolved for dry ashing. Flame photometry has also been used in the quality management of the petroleum products. It can be used for determination of tetraethyl lead and magnesium in gasoline stock accurately. In order to avoid evaporation losses, speed is necessary in case of petroleum products. Samples are diluted with isooctane from 0.5 to 3 ml of the tetraethyl lead per gallon, and for manganese from 0.02 to 1.1 gram per gallon. Special sample cup covers and small bore capillary integral aspirator burners are specially used for petroleum products. The height of the flame of oxygen-hydrogen flame is kept 0.5 inch without gasoline. This flame expands to natural height of normal size when gasoline is sprayed into the flame. Lead or manganese naphthalate are used as standards. The manganese samples can be compared against a standard calibration curve if the sample is very dilute. Metal additives in lubricating oils can also be determined by using flame photometric technique, and it can be done by diluting a known amount of unknown sample with an organic solvent and then atomizing the mixture into suitable flame. For example, you can determine boron and you can dilute it with suitable solvent in 1:1 ratio, or you can use a naphthalene or benzene isopropyl alcohol for dilution. The standards can be used, used for lithium, potassium, calcium, strontium and barium are metals that are used as standards for lead or magnesium naphthalates. Flame emission spectrometry has been also used in metallurgic analysis, in the analysis of the metallurgic products. For example, alkali and alkaline earth metals are determined in number of metallurgic products. Like if you are preparing an alloy or using a catalyst or high purity metals, you need to actually check the purity of the substance, and in alloy to know the different concentrations of the metals. So this can be effectively used for determination of various elements or metals in metallurgic products. Some other examples which involve use of flame emission spectroscopy are determination of lithium and sodium in cast iron and nodular iron. By using standard addition method and comparing metallic emission with emission from standard prepared from the bulk metal or synthetic matrices, sodium can be determined in aluminium and lithium mixtures. Lithium, sodium, potassium, and calcium can be determined, or the purity of phosphorus, arsenic, and antimony can be determined by use of this FES technique. Lithium in magnesium lithium aluminum alloy has been successfully determined using this technique. In non-ferrous alloys, copper can be determined directly by using flame emission spectroscopy. Similarly, in case with silver, for steel and iron samples, little prior preparation is necessary and is carried out after extraction the organic phase with directly and is carried out with the organic phase, which can be directly aspirated into the flame. In aluminum alloy, copper, manganese, and iron contents have been determined using flame emission spectroscopy. Aluminum can be removed as its cuprate or 2-thione or 2-thenoyl trifluoroaceto 2-thenoyl trifluoroacetonate complex at pH 5 to 6 into methyl isobutyl acetone. Copper can be extracted as its diethyl dithiocarbamate from aluminum alloy or as silyl aldoxanate from solution of ferrous alloy masked with citrate. Iron in non-ferrous alloys has been extracted with methyl isobutyl ketone from a solution of 6 molar HCl. So less common elements like ruthenium, rhodium, palladium have sensitive and rich line spectra. So all rare earth metals except cerium and praseodymium and lanthanum, scandium and yttrium have intense band spectra, therefore can be easily identified by using flame emission spectroscopy. Tellurium can be determined by extraction from 5 molar HCl by methyl isobutyl ketone or as diethyl dithiocarbamate at pH 4 in presence of EDTA. Flame emission spectroscopy can be used rapidly and accurately for determination of sodium and potassium in agronomy materials also. The analysis of exchangeable cation in soil may be carried out by extracting and leaching a 10-gram sample of soil with 250 ml of ammonium acetate solution. Standards are also prepared in an ammonium acetate solution. It means when you receive a soil sample, you need to first extract the metal by using different solvents. And ammonium acetate solution has been very effectively used for preparation of the extract from the soil. And by using standards in the same solvent, a calibration curve can be prepared and the concentration of the sodium in the soil sample can be determined. In the determination of potassium, leaching with neutral and ammonium acetate solution is sufficient. You need not to do anything else. Only in case of non-calcareous soil, but in case of calcareous soil, it is necessary to remove calcium with ammonium oxalate first. So if you have a soil sample which is a calcareous in nature, you need to first treat it for the removal of the calcium with ammonium oxalate. In the determination of potassium in the soil samples, calcium, strontium and aluminum interfere seriously. Plant materials may either be treated like soil or they may be ashed as described under biological fluids. You can determine various elements in plant materials also, and they need to be treated like soil. That means they need to be first extracted, or you can ash them to remove all organic materials by heating in furnace, electric furnace, or by digesting with nitric acid as we discussed in the biological fluids. Potassium in potash, which is used as a fertilizer, can be determined by dissolving in nitric acid. So in case of mixed fertilizers, phosphate and sulfate ions may be removed by anion exchange Rutherford, and then determination of the potassium can be done. So students, let's now summarize what we have learned in this module. In this module, we learned about various methods for determination of metals by using FES, or I can say application of flame emission spectrometry in various fields of science. We discuss about determination of sodium in general samples or in clinical samples, very specific samples. Also, we learned about the precautions and preparations that need to be done before carrying out the flame emission procedure, and that depends upon the sample source. We also touched upon Special applications of flame emission spectroscopy, especially to water or glass or biological fluids and tissues. We also include petroleum products. Thank you.